Good evening, everyone. Keith Udy here, independent mortgage specialist with Mortgage Alliance and Rich Mortgage Group. Tonight, I'm here to tell you the sweet way to build your business in Calgary. As a mortgage professional and as a secondary suite specialist here in the city of Calgary, I feel this information is very important for real estate investors, home buyers, and realtors so that they can grow their business and so that you can also, as a home buyer, qualify for more mortgage than you would without having a legal suite in your property. So our outline for today, we're going to talk first, we're going to do an introduction and we're going to talk about, I'll tell you a little bit about me, how you're going to protect yourself, legal suite important dates, the new processes and information, give you a few little extras, some financing of rentals, and how to be set up for success. A little about who I am. As I mentioned, I am a licensed mortgage professional here in the province of Alberta and an independent mortgage specialist. I was a Mortgage Alliance Masters Club member winner for 2017 for the top 20% in Mortgage Alliance across Canada. Been a real estate investor since 2003, and I'm a joint venture and secondary suite specialist. I'm also a licensed realtor with Urban Realty since 2014, which I use for the purposes of real estate investing for the most part. I am a certified real estate investment advisor, which allows me the opportunity to coach people in real estate investing, whether they're new or whether they're stuck in their current investing needs. So that is what I use that for. I was the REIN Real Estate Professional of the Year in 2017 and the REIN Real Innovative Investor of the Year in 2015. For those that you don't know, REIN is the Real Estate Investment Network. I've also been a basketball referee since 1989. And was fortunate to have the great opportunity to referee the wheelchair basketball at the Invictus Games in Toronto in 2017. How I can assist you with financing is I do mortgage renewals, mortgage switches and transfers, home purchases, mortgage refinances, rental property financing, along with construction and commercial financing with my commercial team. So some of the most important things for us, for investors, when you are investing in real estate, whether you're doing it for yourself and your primary residence, because it is an investment, or whether you're buying it strictly as a cash flow type property. One, I tell you, don't rely on a realtor for the information. Make sure that you verify the information yourself. Do what you have to do to protect yourself. Do your homework to find the right opportunities, and don't get fooled by uneducated sellers and realtors telling you things that aren't true. Don't let you lose deals due to working with unknowledgeable mortgage brokers or banks. There's some very important dates when it comes to secondary suites. The most important dates are January 1st, 2007. This one is critical. Write it down, mark it, don't forget it, because I'm going to talk about it some more. October 1st, 2015, April 1st, 2017, March 12th, 2018, June 1st, 2018, November, December 2018, May, June 2019, and June 1st, 2020. I'm going to give you some more details on each of those dates and why they are important. January 1st, 2007. Ingrain this date in your brain. That's all I can just tell you is ingrain it in your brain, ingrain it in your realtor's brain. This is a very important date because any property with an illegal suite that was built prior to January 1st, 2007 determines the difference between Alberta Fire Code versus Alberta Building Code and in what you are required to do to meet that code. The biggest difference between the two codes is the requirement for heat source. Under the Alberta Fire Code, you only need one heat source. Under Alberta Building Code, you need two. So when you're looking at property, if the suite was built prior to January 1st, 2007, you fall under Alberta Fire Code, which means even if you make the suite legal, you only have to have one heat source. Part of this is you're going to declare this on the application with the city when you go and fill out your application. So sometimes you may need evidence of the history of the suite being used as a suite by the city. Another item to a little extra here on this I want to mention is that the electrical panel must meet the Canadian Electrical Code. The electrical panel does not have to be accessible to both of the suites. That was a change. A lot of people think in Calgary that that's the way it used to be. Hasn't been that way for several years now. On October 1st, 2015, the Development Permit Exempt Program trial began. This was only for R2 and RC2 detached single-family homes. This was a one-day permit process where you were not requesting any exceptions, that they were able to get you your building and development permit in one day for your legal suite. And that is also the date that the legal suite registration program began, was October 1st, 2015. Then on April 1st, 2017, the Development Permit Exempt Program was made permanent by City Council. Again, this is only for R2 and RC2 detached single-family homes. And again, it's a one-day permit process when you have no exception requests. Then on March 12th, 2018, the Secondary Suite Discretionary Use Bylaw was approved by City Council. This applies to R1, RC1, and RC1L detached single-family homes only. Again, it's single-family homes only, and they're detached. The implementation of this just started on June 1st, 2018. Now, although carriage suites are part of a secondary suite discretionary use, they do require some special policies, and Council sent their committee back to report to them this fall and is not part of this initial implementation. So on June 1st, 2018, the secondary suite discretionary use began. Now, again, as I mentioned, it's the R1, RC1, and RC1L detached single-family homes. I'm going to repeat that several times to make sure that you get it. This also was the start of the 2-year amnesty period for illegal suites. At the end of the 2-year amnesty period, active enforcement will begin. They've put in place 2 processes for application, and I've got some more details to come on this in the process section where I'll talk about it. On June 25th of 2018, there's a report to Council on changes to the registry bylaw. The Council was looking for some ways to ensure registration of suites was up to date. And the recommendation will be that there will be a 5-year renewal requirement for secondary suites that have been registered. There were other considerations that were considered being recommended. However, because they could have been viewed as being discriminatory, they are not being put forward to Council as a recommendation. So those details on June 25th, we'll see if it looks any different than what the current projection is for just the 5-year renewal requirement. Then in November, December of 2018, so this fall, we will have a committee report back to Council on the carriage suites. Again, this only applies to R1, RC1, and RC1L detached single-family homes. The Council, there will be a proposed policies and guidelines for Council to approve on the carriage suites. The process approval for the discretionary use on these will be the same. However, there's going to be some specific requirements for, mostly it's around the architectural design and making sure that there's nothing that's going to be an impediment on the privacy of neighbors in the design. Then the next big date doesn't come up until May or June of 2019. At this point, there is a committee making a proposal for a bylaw change to Council on secondary suites and semi-detached dwellings. This will only be a proposal at this time, and at that time they will decide whether they're going to pass a motion to take it to a vote probably in the fall and then go from there. Currently, the majority of semi-detached suites in the city of Calgary are illegal. And this relates to R2 and RC2 zoned semi-detached dwellings. If passed, the bylaw reading would likely happen somewhere around February, March of 2020, unless Council finds a way to fast track it compared to what they did with the previous bylaw that they just passed. The process for the approval on these will be based on what they decide to do with the bylaw. And the ability to provide the required parking will be a key element to being able to legalize a suite in a semi-detached property. However, because of the timeline of when this is approved and the amnesty period ending June 1st, 2020, likely the amnesty period on these will also only go to June 1st, 2020. Then the next big date is that we know of at this time is June 1st, 2020. That's when the amnesty period ends. This means that if you have an illegal suite, they are giving you 2 years to be able to bring your suite up to code and make it legal with no issues or concerns. As of June 1st, 2020, they will be taking active enforcement to shut down illegal suites in the city. So that is when they will be looking to limit ads on certain sites for illegal suites and checking out other sites for ads of illegal suites. So advertising of illegal suites will be restricted on some sites and be a worry for tracking down illegal suites on another. So this is going to increase demand for illegal suites. The last thing tenants want is to be living in a place where they can get kicked out because it's an illegal suite. And the last thing an owner should want is to have to go through that process and have their tenants kicked out because they have an illegal suite. So people should be taking advantage of this program. Also on January 1st, 2020, the registry and development fee will begin. You will currently be required to complete the registry and development process. However, currently that fee is waived for the 2-year amnesty period. So here's some details on the discretionary use. As I mentioned, the registry fee, $0 till June 2020. The development permit, free till June 1st, 2020. The building permit fee is 1% plus safety code surcharge. So depends on the building permit fee depends on what you're planning to do in the suite, and it's 1% of that value is what your fee brings out. So if you were doing a $10,000 repair, it's $100 plus the safety code. So you're a couple $100 and you've got your building permit fee. On June 1st, 2020, the registry fee kicks in and it's $232, and the development permit, $470 on June 2020. The amnesty period also allows for existing suites to have no floor plan requirement to complete the application. The discretionary use application, it can be done in person at City Hall, or you can do it now on site with a development inspection by an inspector. What a fabulous thing. The inspector comes to the property before you've done your work, has a shorter checklist than the City Hall application, completes it right there on site, and if you provide the RPR report to them for expediency, you can have things happen so much faster. So the inspector you can do it right there on site. So I'm going to repeat this. You can go in down to City Hall if you want. You have the time, you want to go and do it there, great. But you can just call 311, tell them you want to get an on-site development inspection by an inspector. They come to your property. They've got a shorter checklist than the City Hall application. They complete it right there on site, your application. And if you have the RPR, that's going to expedite the process that much faster for you. Then if you're planning renovations to an existing suite, I recommend that you use the on-site inspector, because this can be critical to maintain the existing suite status. Remember that date, January 1st, 2007? Well, you don't want to be seen as having done major renovations to the property and them saying, no, this is new. This is no longer a pre-existing suite because of the work you did. So why not have them come, sign off that, yeah, it's an existing suite. It certainly looks like it was built January 1st, 2007. And if you need to provide proof of the status, old MLS listings, old ads, whatever you have that show that the suite has been there since prior to that. Because if you're planning major renovations and you do them prior to an inspection, you could void your status. And then you end up having done a bunch of work, not having put in the double heat, which they could then require, saying, no, you now have to meet Alberta Building Code, not Alberta Fire Code, because you did so much work. Now, anytime you're changing a floor plan of an old suite, if you're changing the floor plan, they're going to consider you as having done a major renovation and having changed it from an old suite to a new suite. So be aware of that. If you're planning major renovations and you're planning to change the floor plan, then you're likely going to fall into the situation of Alberta Building Code. One of the things they're going to look at, now obviously if you have to gut the bathroom because of water damage, you can explain that. Take pictures, show things like that. But take pictures before you do your renovations. Those are things that can help if for some reason you haven't or didn't go through the process of getting the on-site inspection. Now the process. So here's the process for a discretionary use application. The application gets submitted, whether you do it in person or whether you do it with the on-site inspector. A notice is posted on the lot in 10 to 14 days after your application is submitted. The planner makes their decision on whether they're accepting your application, and they may request changes if there's something wrong in your application. Then a notice is circulated to the councillor for the community and the community association. Now, from that point, the advertisement has to be placed in the newspaper. If you can believe it or not, they still require an ad to be placed in the newspaper for 3 consecutive Thursdays. So depending on what day of the week, it could be 3 to 4 weeks of your opportunity for appeal. So the public has the opportunity to appeal for a period of 3 to 4 weeks. If there's no appeals, boom, your permit is issued and you're done. So within 4 to 6 weeks, you've got your permit and away you go. Now, if you have appeals against your application, the process gets extended by more than double. So here's what happens. The appeals are received by the appeal board at the end of the 3 to 4 week period. Then from that point, the appeal board has 30 days to set the appeal hearing date. Then that hearing date is set based on the appeal volume and maybe 4 to 8 weeks from the date that they decide that they're going to set from the date they actually set your hearing date. So this could be like a major delay. Then the appeal hearing occurs. Once the appeal hearing occurs, they have a written decision to you within 2 weeks. So let's look at this. So 4 to 8 weeks plus 2 weeks plus 30 days. So you're talking 4 weeks plus 4 weeks plus 2 weeks. So you're at least 10 weeks and potentially up to 14 additional weeks. Now, if you add that to the 4 to 6 weeks that are part of just a no appeal process, you're talking a major timeline here to get your suite through the discretionary use done. So how can you alleviate some of that? Talk to your neighbors. Check your community association's opinion on secondary suites in that community. Those are things that can help you with counselor's opinion. Talk to the counselor. Make sure your counselor is on side. Make sure there are things that aren't going to get in your way. And if you do have an appeal on your suite discretionary use permit, you must attend the appeal hearing and present your plan. So you've got to stand up for yourself. If you just let it ride, then you're leaving it up to somebody else. Be there to present your reason why and how it's going to work. This is so critical. Now, a little extra information here about the appeal board. The appeal board is made up of community members. It's not made up of counselors. It's not made up of people from the city. It is strictly made up of community members. Organizations make nominations to the council, and then the council has final approval on who they select for the committee. Then those people have 2-year terms, and they're staggered. So here's some little extras for you about secondary suites. Currently, we have 973 registered suites in the city of Calgary. Now, recently, one of the more popular zoning changes that we had, that the city came out with in 2015, was the RCG zoning. Sorry, they came out with in 2014. And there's been a little hiccup in that RCG zoning when people have and developers have decided to try to use it. And that comes down to the utilities. If you do RCG zoning, you have to have separate utility supplies coming into each of the properties, each of the units, whether they're semi-detached or whether they're detached. Whereas if you are doing a semi-detached, you may, or if you're going to do a zoning change, you may want to use the MCG as your best land use request, because you can have a single line of utilities come in and then split. And that is how most semi-detached properties are actually already set up. So be aware of that if you are looking to rezone, you want to be careful when you're looking at RCG versus MCG. I know RCG offers some great opportunities, but be aware of the extra cost of having to bring in that second supply of utilities into the property. Another one that can be a hang-up for people on secondary suites is the airport vicinity protection areas, the AVPA. Any of the communities that are in line with one of the runways likely have this AVPA registered on title. And if you have an AVPA registered on title and you have an existing suite in the property, then they're okay for legalizing. The process is straightforward and you're not going to run into issues. However, if you're wanting to put a new suite into something that has an AVPA, your process is going to be extended and much more difficult, because it's going to have to go to council to request an amendment. So be aware of that when you're looking at properties. If you're thinking, yeah, this is a great property, it's zoned R2 or RC2 or R, whatever it is. If it has an AVPA on title and it doesn't have an existing suite, know that that might be a red flag for you to walk away, because that might just be a lot of work and a lot of delay that ends up getting you nowhere. Another little extra is with regards to smoke detectors. Bluetooth detectors are okay as long as they are wired for power supply. So if you can position them, say, close to a light fixture in the ceiling and just have the power supply come from that light over to the detector, and then you have Bluetooth connection for them to communicate, that is perfectly fine. And the carbon monoxide detector can be strictly a battery operated detector. It does not have to be wired for power supply, based on the information that's available and I found on the websites for code. Now, all this is great, but how are you going to finance your secondary suites? Well, if you're going for an insured mortgage, so if you're buying the home as a primary residence and you want a secondary suite to be able to help support your income, then an insured mortgage requires you to have a legal secondary suite to be able to use that income. So that is, and it has to have been operating as a suite for 2 years. So you have to be able to show that the suite in the property has been used for 2 years. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get a purchase plus improvements mortgage to add a suite to the property. That's possible, that you can do that to help pay for adding a suite to the property. It just means that that income at that time can't be used. So you could do that, use a purchase plus improvements, build a legal secondary suite, get tenants in there, have it as a legally operated suite for 2 years, and then apply for a refinance, maybe for on the higher value of the property, so that you get advantage of being able to do that. The next is, some lenders are already starting to require legal status on conventional financing as well in order to use the suite income. So I had a client recently that the illegal income from a basement suite in a semi-detached, they said, no go, not going to use it. Conventional financing, and they already turned it down. So this is something that as we move forward and the lenders become aware of these new policies that the city is implementing, along with the amnesty period where they're going to start shutting suites down actively in 2 years. Well, most mortgages are a 5-year term. What does that do to their risk after the end of 2 years? Well, the risk is that that suite could be shut down, and now that person doesn't have that income to use to help support their qualifications. So be aware of that. Purchase plus improvements are available on both high ratio and conventional financing for secondary suites. So if you're doing a purchase and you want to have a rental, if you're doing a purchase of an illegally suited property and you want to make it legal, and it's going to cost $15,000, you can get purchase plus improvements to be able to complete those repairs, so you end up with a legal suite, which now is going to be worth more, and you end up at 80% loan to value when you're done. You don't have to go look to refinance again to get yourself up to 80% loan to value. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if it's strictly a rental investment property, lenders charge rate premiums on strictly rentals. Those rental premiums range anywhere from 0.05% up to 0.35%, depending on the lender. So when you're looking on the internet for rates, you're not going to find real estate investment property rental rates on the internet. You're going to see the best high ratio rates that are out there. If you want to know what rental rates are, contact me. I'll let you know where current rental rates are, and happy to use that to give you the rates that I have from the dozen lenders that we work with. Some lenders also have a limit of 25-year amortization. There's a few that have 30-year amortization. Some only have a 25-year limit on the amortization that they allow on rental properties. So be aware of that. It's so critical that you're working with a mortgage broker that's going to help you work your plan to be able to either get into your first home, or whether you're trying to build your rental portfolio, making sure that the process that's being used for where to get mortgages is the right one. Sometimes it's not just about how where you go and get a mortgage. It's the process and the order in which you get the mortgage. If you go and get a mortgage out of the wrong order, it can impact your ability for future financing because you can hit your limit sooner than you should. And as well, there's specialized rental and renovation financing available through me. We've got products for rental financing that have 100% rental offset, stated income qualification, 75% loan to value, 5% rental or 5% rate, 30-year amortization. And as long as your property rental income covers the principal, the interest, the taxes, and the heat, and you have a credit score of 650 or better, we can do that up to 10 rental properties with one lender. So this is a pretty amazing product. And if you have multiple properties, as long as your DCR works out to 1.0 on your properties, this is a product that can help you grow your portfolio exponentially. I mean, when you consider rental rates are somewhere around 3.74 to 4.24%, if you're having to pay a 4.75 or 5%, it's not going to make a huge difference in your rate, but your ability to qualify and close on more deals could be significant if you are tight on your ability to qualify because of cash flows. As well, we now have a new renovation financing up to $20,000 that you can get for renovations to your home. So this is a new product that we have available that is also going to be great for you to use for legalizing your suites. Now, it's great for anybody. Anybody that wants to renovate their home can also tap into this financing, but definitely a great opportunity to use this to help finance the legalization of your suite. So one of the final things I want to tell you is we want to make sure you set yourself up for success. Use knowledgeable professionals. If you're looking at doing anything with a legal suite, whether it's in a primary residence or rental properties, you should be using knowledgeable professionals in your dealings so that you have a team that's going to be supporting you in the right way. Ensure you know what to do. Don't rely 100% on somebody else for all of the information. Make sure you know what to do as well. Ensure you know the risks that come with dealing with the city, dealing with secondary suites, dealing with tenants. Make sure you know the risks. There is no guaranteed approval on discretionary use. It does have to go to committee, and if you're looking for exceptions, those are the things that can get in your way. I can tell you right now, if you have a cul-de-sac property with no back lane, there is virtually 0% chance you're going to get an approval. The number one property that I was told the city is not looking to approve are cul-de-sac properties with no back lane. Because at least if you have a back lane, there's an opportunity for you to be able to provide the parking. A cul-de-sac property with no back lane, providing the parking requirement, it's virtually impossible unless you happen to have a reverse pie lot that you have a really wide front in your cul-de-sac. So that's why it's really hard to provide that parking. And if you're an investor, you should be contacting your investor database to help them know that you know a way to build your business with them. Set yourself up for success. So that's the end of the discretionary use process. I just want to make sure that when you are talking to a mortgage professional, there's some key qualities that you should be looking at. One, do they look at the long-term goal of you, the client? Do they understand real estate as an investment and how that impacts your goals and your family? Can they think outside the box when needed to help put together a deal and the financing for it? Do they know the importance of a mortgage term versus just the rate? Sometimes a slightly higher rate might give you a mortgage term. One of the other financing options we currently have a no penalty mortgage. We have a lender that if you refinance with them or you sell your property, if it's in the middle of the term, no penalty. How does that sound? And they have a fantastic 5-year rate of 3.19% right now until the end of June. They need to be able to look and have knowledge beyond just mortgages. The information that they can impart on you as the investor or on you as the home buyer should be beyond just that of mortgages. They should also have the experience to identify red flags, maybe in your file for yourself personally or with the property you're looking to buy. I will go through a cash flow review with clients on a property to make sure they're putting a good property into their portfolio. Because the last thing I want is for them to put a bad property into their portfolio. A bad property means that now it's going to make it more difficult to buy the next one. So let's make sure that you're buying good property into your portfolio so that you can grow. And of course, pro bono mortgage reviews or second opinions. You might have an approval. You might have gone to your bank and they said, yeah, we'll work with you. We can do this. You can go and get a second opinion and find out if there's something better out there for you, a better option. Banks, high interest rate differential penalties if you decide to break that mortgage in 5 years. So those are some of those key important things that as a mortgage broker we can talk about. Are you okay with that? Are you aware of it? A lot of people aren't aware that several thousands of dollars to break a mortgage from the bank. Or if you have a current mortgage and you want to find out whether it makes sense to switch to a new lender or break your mortgage early, we can do a pro bono mortgage review for you and find out what makes sense for you. Again, it should always be a good listener who's open, honest, and understanding. If I don't have the right deal for you and it doesn't make sense, I'm going to let you know. And I'm never going to charge you an application fee to work with me. That's something that I don't believe in. So tonight, I hope you learned a lot about discretionary use process here in the city of Calgary and what it's going to take to legalize secondary suites here. As a real estate investor who has legal secondary suites, this is very valuable. This is going to change the game in the city of Calgary. It's going to change the game for investors. It's going to increase the demand over the next few years for legal secondary suites. Because when this amnesty period kicks in and they start actively pursuing the shutdown of illegal suites, what do renters want? Renters are going to want to live in places that can't be shut down. So this is something that's going to have a very positive impact on property value, and it's going to have a very positive impact on rental values in the city of Calgary. Now, if any of you have any questions, do not hesitate to send me a message. Happy to answer your questions and let you know what it is that I can do to help or what information I didn't cover that maybe you have a question about. I'm available. Send me a message. You can email me, keith@enrichmortgage.ca. And I look forward to seeing you all again on another live event in the future. Have a great night.